You've been eyeing a Tesla Model Y for months, but the doubts keep creeping in. The electric bill, the battery dying, the vandalism stories. Let's settle every one of those fears, then get into the stuff that actually makes this thing worth buying. Beat 1. The electric bill myth. Let's start with the big one, because this is the fear that stops most people. The electric bill. Here's the thing, almost nobody does before they panic about this. Go look at your actual power bill and find your kilowatt hour rate. It's printed right there. Mine sits around 7 cents per kilowatt hour. The battery in this car holds roughly 80 kilowatt hours, so a full charge from empty runs me about $5 or $6. Spread that across the 300-ish miles you get, and you're paying somewhere near 2 cents a mile to drive this thing. Now compare that to gas at $4 a gallon. Even a hyper-efficient hybrid is landing you around 6 cents a mile, 3 times what I'm paying, and you're stuck driving a hybrid to get there. I cover about 1,000 miles a month, so call it 4 full charges, $25, maybe $30. Is your power bill higher than it was? Sure, but here's the part the loud people online always conveniently skip. Your gas bill is now 0, gone. So even if my electric crept up 40 or 50 bucks, I was spending way more than that at the pump every single month. The math isn't close. Beat 2. The battery replacement scare. Now for the claim that just refuses to die, that you'll be buying a brand new battery every 2 or 3 years. I genuinely don't know where this one comes from. Every new Tesla on the lot today ships with an 8-year or roughly 120,000 mile warranty on the battery and drivetrain. So in the rare case something does go wrong inside that window, you're not paying a dime. And think about how long people actually keep cars. The average loan now runs 5 to 6 years, and most folks trade out right around when it's paid off, which puts you comfortably inside that warranty the entire time. Yes, a replacement out of pocket is expensive, somewhere in the 10 to 15,000 range, but the odds you ever actually need one sit in the low single digits, 1 or 2%, the exact same odds that the engine in a gas car grenades itself. Funny thing is, nobody shopping for a gas car loses sleep over the engine exploding, even though those usually only carry a 5-year, 60,000 mile powertrain warranty, half the coverage, and somehow it's the EV that gets the worry. Beat 3. The vandalism question. A lot of you are probably still thinking about all the headlines from a couple years back. The keyed cars, the vandalism, the stuff all over the news. Honestly, it depends heavily on where you live, but for the most part, it's settled down. Almost every wild incident you saw was in a major metro, the big coastal cities, not your average suburb or mid-sized town. And even then, it was overwhelmingly one specific model getting targeted, not the Model Y. I've driven mine everywhere and never caught a single dirty look. I also ran a paint protection film kit on it, and a lot of those companies now offer a vandalism guarantee, where if someone damages the car and the film saves the paint, you send in the footage and they handle it. Which brings me to the feature that I think genuinely killed a lot of this behavior: Sentry Mode. People know about it now. This car is filming in every direction, all the time. You can't even walk up to it without ending up on camera. Turns out that's a pretty strong deterrent. Beat 4. One pedal driving. Alright, now the stuff I actually love, starting with the first thing you'll notice the second you test drive one. One pedal driving. Lift off the accelerator and the car slows itself down hard, no brake pedal needed in most situations. It feels completely alien for about a week, and then you genuinely cannot imagine going back. In stop and go traffic, the kind of driving everyone hates, it's a totally different experience. And it goes further than that. This car parks itself, shuts itself off, and locks itself the moment you walk away. I can't tell you how many times in our old gas car I'd hop out, leave it running, windows down, doors unlocked, and get halfway across the lot before the panic hit. With this, that whole category of mistake just disappears. You stop thinking about it entirely, and because the Regen is doing nearly all your slowing for you, you're barely touching the actual brakes, which leads perfectly into the next thing. Beat 5. Basically no maintenance. Think about everything a gas car nickel and dimes you on over the years. Oil changes, spark plugs, brake pads, rotors, the break-in period, the timing components, all of it. This car has none of that. There's no oil to change, no plugs to swap, and because Regen handles your braking, your pads and rotors last far longer than anything you're used to. The handful of things that do need attention, like wiper blades and cabin filters, get tracked for you right inside the app, so you're never guessing. Assuming you've got cheap home charging that's already folded into your power bill, your real monthly cost on this car comes down to two things: your payment, if you've got one, and your insurance. That's the whole list. After years of treating car maintenance as a constant background expense, it's a genuinely strange feeling to just stop thinking about it. Beat 6, the software and updates. Here's something no gas car has ever done for me. It gets better while it sits in the garage. The software side was one of the biggest reasons I bought in, and it's held up. You buy this car, and a year later, it does things it literally couldn't do the day you drove it home. Big updates roll out a couple times a year, and they show up overnight while you sleep. You wake up, and there are new features waiting. If someone had told me years ago that I'd be genuinely excited for software updates on my car, the way you'd wait on a new phone update, I'd have laughed. But that's exactly where we are. The car you buy today is not the car you'll be driving in 12 months, and it only moves in one direction. Try getting that from anything with an engine. Beat 7, full self-driving. And this is the one that's changed the most. Full self-driving. For years, this was a punchline, and honestly, it deserved to be. The early versions were like supervising a nervous teenager behind the wheel, constantly ready to grab control. Elon promised it would be finished next year so many times that a lot of people stopped believing it would ever be good. I get the skepticism, but I'm telling you, it crossed a line recently that's hard to put into words. I can punch in a destination across town, hit a button, and it'll handle the entire drive, lights, turns, merges, all of it, without me touching the wheel. The version that people made fun of and the version running today are not the same product. It went from a gimmick you'd never actually rely on to something that's a legitimate reason to buy the car on its own. I genuinely hope the big mainstream reviewers start scoring assisted driving as its own category, because this many people leaning on it daily isn't a niche thing anymore. Beat 8, storage and space. The last thing that genuinely surprised me is how much this car swallows. Around 75 cubic feet of total storage once you account for everything. You've got roughly 30 cubic feet in the back with the seats up. And when you need more, the rear seats fold flat at the push of a button and even nudge the front seats forward for you. Up front, there's a frunk that adds another few cubic feet. And unlike some of the other models, this one's actually deep enough to be useful. But here's what I think matters even more than the raw number: the size of the opening. My last car had decent space on paper, but I lost count of how many times I measured something, knew it should fit, and then physically couldn't get it through the gap. This hatch opening solves that completely, and all that room up top translates to real room for people too. I'm a bigger guy, and sitting in the back, I've got legroom to spare. I can stretch out, and the seats even recline a little. For a car that doesn't look huge from the outside, it just keeps giving. I could honestly keep going for another 10 minutes. The low center of gravity, the way it handles for an SUV, the clean, simple interior, all of it. But if you've made it this far and you're still on the fence, as someone who drives one every single day, I think you already know which way you're leaning. So if you were the one shopping right now, what's the one thing that would finally push you to pull the trigger? Thanks so much for watching. If you want more car stuff like this showing up in your feed, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.